combustion.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Been running the game with my team making plays. Talking 80, my G's, 100 jewels in this place. Surrounded by dogs, keep the quarterback safe. I'm the one with the plans, they gon' do what I say. The game is not over, we don't celebrate in the end zone. We don't got no time in the wait. H-time run down, we don't premeditate. We just go and get to it, we got them on skates. If the game go into overtime, kicking the overdrive, we gon' be first at the finish line. Play looking full, but I finish mine. Can I get seconds? We gon' line up like it's dinner time. We put in work till we get us a ring. Super Bowl season, we running the scene. H-time the home of the realest that breathe. Keep your face down when you talk to the king. What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the H-Town Rundown. This is your boy AD, and I got my co-host in the building. We got Jules in the building. We got Mike G, and Auntie Swan to be back with us in a few. But how's everybody's Wednesday going?
We're doing well. Doing well.
Go good. We're swimming.
Speaking of, there she go. How you
Go
doing,
Cougs.
Swan? Go Cougs.
That's right.
Cougs. It's all about the Houston. That's the H in the H-Town Rundown in Houston. We talk about Houston sports, Houston Rockets.
That's right.
Houston Texans, Houston Astros. Oh, Houston. I don't know about anybody. If you're from Houston, you gotta rip the H. But how's everybody's Wednesday doing, especially you, Auntie Swan?
It's excellent. How are y'all doing?
Ready to rock and roll.
Hey, it's a wonderful day. The Houston Texans have no major news. No major news. We're in the dead period, which is why we're talking about the roster construction and the draft and all of these different things. One thing we didn't get that amazing soundbite from Cal McNair in the owners meeting. Him and Hannah last year, they talked about the center being the leader of the team. So we didn't get one of those magical sound bites from Cal McNair and Hannah McNair this year. But Cal did talk about the team isn't finished.
Right.
They're not done making moves. They're not done building the team for the 2025 season. That is the main tidbit that we got from Cal McNair. Other than that, D'Amico Ryans and the coaches met as well. They talked about a few things. They talked about the toxic locker room in Houston. They talked about, Sean McVay talked about Nick Caley being the new OC for the Houston Texans. And they, basically talked about the loss of Stephon Diggs as well. Him going to the Patriots for $69 million and, however much guaranteed. I think it was only $26 million guaranteed. And D'Amico talked about, they wanted to bring him back and they just, weren't able to match that number. So the Patriots pulled out the bag. So all of those different little topics happened this past week with the owners and coaches meeting. What did they meet in? Is it Hawaii or somewhere like that?
No, it's Florida.
Florida. So I knew it was somewhat tropical.
But I know I think Hannah said something about CJ. I don't know if it was her or her husband, but they said that CJ is prepping to take this team to another level. So they're trying to give him much tools to take this team to a level that we've never been before.
CJ is gonna take them and like this black and white.
Right.
No. Who's laughing at this one with the big ass chest on?
And then we also talk about Speed, the silent Speed. That was a good conversation to had about why he was here. He wanted to be here because
EJ Speed.
Yeah, he was like we're on the cusp of the Texans are on the cusp of doing something great. He want to be a Pro Bowler, so he thinks he can be a Pro Bowler here. So that was a good conversation we had.
Thank you for reminding me, Jules. It was something the Texans did. They signed EJ Speed, linebacker, $1 year, $5 million contract. Shout out EJ Speed.
Right.
Well, he said if you can't beat him, you gotta join them.
Pull a Kevin Durant.
Pull the Kevin Durant, gonna win the chip with the Texans. But
we hope so.
EJ Speed, we will talk about this because tonight we are going to talk about the wide receiver position and the wide receiver group. But I do want to touch on this because there was a conversation that was had on Texans Twitter this past week with EJ Speed signing and the question of Christian Harris.
Harris, yes.
What does this mean for Christian Harris? I know that the Aaron Wilsons of the world and the Texan Caps of the world talked about this may be a sign that Henry To'oTo'o or Azeez Al-Shaair may lose their starting spot to EJ Speed. I don't think that happens at all. And this is coming from a Henry To'oTo'o hater.
Yeah,
Bama
linebacker.
Well, let me
hater.
say that. Let me say that. Henry To'oTo'o motivator.
Oh no,
No, you had it right the first time. You had it right the first time.
This is coming from a Henry To'oTo'o motivator that I adamantly think neither one of those guys, Henry or Azeez, are losing their starting position to EJ Speed. I think this brings up more of a question of Christian Harris and what his role with the team is, and he may be a potential camp cut.
I won't go that far, but what is
now, hold on.
What is Speed position?
What happened?
What is Speed position? Is he a will?
He can play either one,
Because
Sam or
in his quote, he said he wants to be the best will linebacker in the NFL. That was a direct quote from him.
Well, what do you think that what do you think that Christian Harris plays?
Correct. So it's out of To'oTo'o or him. It's not Azeez.
I don't think it's Christian Harris either. I think it's more insurance. I think it's insurance.
I think it's To'oTo'o.
Yeah.
Now let me say this. I already put out the hot take.
It is very high.
Don't be surprised. I'm gonna do a Cal on y'all. Don't be surprised.
Don't
be surprised.
Bama ain't going nowhere.
Well, this
Bama ain't going nowhere.
This is my take, and this is my take. Also gets to the Jalen Petrie love and supporters. Harris is not. Y'all forget how Harris played in the last half of the season when he was fully healthy. The Texans ain't forgot about how he played and how he was dominated the playoffs.
Yeah.
So he ain't. I know y'all want to. I know they want to force JP to be a starting nickelback and only have two linebackers. I think they're gonna play more linebackers than they did before. So I don't think that just because they got 80 speed that he should have to worry about. Now, if he's not healthy, he definitely has something to worry about.
Yes.
If he don't come into camp prepared to play, he definitely because by Speed's words, just off the interview alone, tell you he coming here to start or at least fight for a starting spot. And to be a Pro Bowler, because you can't be a Pro Bowler on the bench as depth player.
So let me say this. He can be a Pro Bowler on special teams. So let me say this. And I hate that when people say that, Jules, he's coming to start. That's literally the mentality of every single player in the NFL.
Not necessarily.
I'm coming, even backup quarterbacks. I'm coming in and I'm going to prepare as if I'm the starter. Don't they say that?
But you know the odds of starting.
Bro. Let's
we talk about being realistic. Because let's face it, David Mills comes in preparing to be the starter, but he know damn well he ain't the starter.
Let me break it down for y'all. If an NFL player comes in with the mentality that I'm not a starting caliber player, or I'm not coming in to start, then how do they play when they come? How are they even on the team?
We didn't say his perception. We're saying the reality of.
He's been a starter.
But that's the point of that's what I'm saying. When they make those comments, that's their perception. That's not the reality.
So Marcus Mariota signing as a backup to be a backup to somebody else. He's not saying, "Oh, I'm gonna come starter over Daniels."
I believe
that's not the conversation we're having.
So if a reporter asks him, Marcus Mariota, do you believe that you can be a starting quarterback in the NFL?
Yeah.
What is he going to
say? Yes.
But on his,
we're not saying what you believe.
That's my whole point.
Okay, let's say it this way. AD, let's say it this way.
That's my point.
Does EJ come in saying, "I'm coming to be a starter"? Yes. Does D'Amico come in saying, I penciled him in as being the starter? He is replacing. I don't think he has given up on Christian Harris. It is more, to me, insurance. It's kind of what happened last year when we saw what happened in camp with the O-line. And folks got pissed because we didn't think they did enough, knowing you had two guys that were coming off of procedures and you roll out there with that old line that you did, and it bit us in the ass, and folks say, well, you know what? They didn't do enough in the off season to prepare for it. Well, guess what? They're saying, guess what? I'm not gonna get caught with my pants down again.
So let me say this. I don't think, regardless of injuries, I don't think the linebacker position took a step back because of injuries. I think they played.
If you're gonna tell me Tua and Christian Harris healthy are the same, no, they're not.
I agree with someone.
I know that the caliber of player isn't the same, but you can't sit up here and
performing.
tell me.
Yes, it is. We haven't seen Tua have a season like.
So what did Neville Hewitt do against the Green Bay Packers?
He still isn't okay.
You're missing. So yeah, I think both of y'all are missing my point when I say a step back. When I'm talking about a step back, I'm talking about that position group becomes a liability.
There was points
there were times it was a liability.
If they were a liability, they were a liability regardless of who was in there. It didn't
matter. I disagree.
Better talent.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that. Like this. Give me a healthy Christian Harris in that Chiefs game, and Kelsey does not look like prime All-Pro Kelsey.
I think that's more of a healthy Jalen.
But there was nobody else to cover. What I'm saying is you couldn't put anybody else.
That's more of a Petrie issue than a linebacker issue.
No. You could have used.
Interesting.
Okay, but I'm saying
you have used, Swan.
I know that, but I'm saying is
like he was guarded by Eric Murray.
Right, but I'm saying is
who else could they have used? Is what I'm saying.
I mean, if
we knew that Azeez was hurt going in because he hurt himself in the Chargers game. So you having a Christian Harris, you could have done it differently because you could have switched. You would have had options. And I think that's what D'Amico wants is, in our mind, we are trying to say you're going to automatically have only 3 linebackers on that field.
What happened to Devin White? Everybody was talking all that hot shit about Devin White.
Damn, can we not move the goalposts? Can we stay on the same guy?
Okay.
But you are.
I'm not moving the goalposts because you sit up here.
Devin White is not Christian Harris. We know that.
You're saying that replacement players. Devin White was brought in as a reserve. Okay. Right?
Did you not watch the playoff game against Cleveland?
You trying too hard to be
on.
No, bro. We're not.
I know.
Devin White.
Did I bring up Devin White? Because
why?
Devin White
and you don't like
I know why you brought up Devin White.
Right. Yes, exactly. Okay, I thought we were doing serious. I thought we were doing seriousness.
Devin White got the same contract that EJ Speed got. I said on the Spaces this past week, EJ Speed is more of a Devin White replacement.
When did Devin White come in? When did Devin White join?
Doesn't matter. Go ahead, Mike. Go, Mike. Go.
Yeah,
no. When did he join?
Finally, on the linebacker conversation, I agree with a point AD made. That first point you said about Christian Harris was completely blasphemous.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of well documented, or at least it should be, about AD's disdain for former Bama linebackers outside of D'Amico himself. Maybe you supported Christian Harris early on, maybe, but you always hated Toto. The moment we drafted him, you hated that pick. So let's not have revisionist history here.
Because he got a list.
Okay. No, Christian Harris, honestly, he's got to stay healthy. That point is true.
Right.
But he's healthy. He's going to be on the field. And is he a great coverage linebacker? No. We don't have a great coverage linebacker. If we do, it's Jalen Petrie.
There you go.
And we would have had better results against Kelsey with Petrie on the field. That's no question. I find it interesting that you and Jules agree most with that point, since y'all both don't want us to keep him long term or don't think he'll be worth it for the cap, even though y'all both say the cap's not real. But we can get into that later in the offseason.
Don't pass that now. I'm gonna stay on Christian Harris. I'm gonna stay on Christian Harris.
We can be off topic.
Because as much as Kenyon Green fought injuries, when he got back, he had his starting position. Why are we trying to Why are we trying to do history because it's Christian Harris? Because the defense is good or it looks great, but still a player is going to get his opportunity as drafted as high as he was, who has played as well as he have, because he
Right.
can't lose. We're going to lose because of injury because we're all year. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah, because Kenyon Green never looked like Christian Harris.
Thank
ever.
you.
So now we're comparing apples to oranges. So
No, it's not apples and oranges.
So the reason, and I'm going to hold on.
Because one's A&M and one's Alabama.
Hold on. I'm going to explain why. First of all, how many linebackers do the Texans play?
It's very because they ain't been good or they ain't been healthy.
Right.
Majority of the time, this whole past season, even when people were healthy, how many linebackers did they play?
Okay. Two at a time, but you don't have the same type of this year. You have a different type
and
of
the reason why, and
so count Petrie as a linebacker.
Let me explain. Because the reason why is him at linebacker, Jalen Pitcher linebacker is better than the backups they had at linebacker. That's why.
Jalen Petrie. So what you're saying is Jalen Petrie is better than Christian Harris as well. Because let's be honest.
Hey, we're not gonna have a 5-minute conversation where you try to keep switching points on.
Hold on. Let's be honest. If Christian Harris was fully healthy, the plan was Christian Harris and Azeez Al-Shaair as your two starting linebackers.
That's what people thought. That we never knew until Christian got hurt. We don't know when he's going to play.
Oh, that was going to be it.
We knew that in training camp, Jules.
I've always said that he wants to play more 3 linebackers. Everybody else keeps saying he wants to do.
No, you're saying at least those 2 were going to be on. They were the starters. We knew that.
Right.
That's what he's saying is that those 2 were automatic starters. If he was healthy.
Go ahead, Mike. Go.
Who's to say, at least going forward, that DeMeco doesn't view the linebacker situation the same way he views the D-line, where he wants to rotate guys in for particular matchups, particular, particular reps. Like, he may want to, all right, now Toto comes in. All right, now we're going to put Petrie as the third linebacker. All right, now, like, it could depend entirely on the situation. Now, I don't know that. None of us know. We're not in the film room, but
like I said, all y'all, as Isaiah Simmons, Jabari Peppers, Keith Murray types, between the players don't last long in the NFL.
Yeah, and I've never really been keen on those guys. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu is an exception to the rule. I think Petrie could be. He certainly proved his worth when he was healthy last year.
we're gonna table this discussion because this will be a good topic next week. Then we talk.
Right, it's gonna be a good draft conversation after draft.
Oh yeah.
But I do want to bring this up because we got Jeremy Chugs in the building. Special guest, he's coming in. But I want to answer Ruben's question. He said, real question that no one is talking about. What happens if this O-line experiment fails? I feel like a lot of people are relying on the power of culture for these O-line problems to be resolved.
Can we get through the draft?
I'm going to tell you this right now, Ruben. If it looks like it did last year, what divisional round? Like the offensive line was bad last year. This experiment, you're not going to get worse than what you had last year.
We'll just be pissed off fans because nobody's getting fired.
There is a way that it does, but none of us want to say it. So,
but
I mean, what I'm saying is nobody's going to get fired. So
I don't know.
No, they're not going to turn around and fire DeMeco, or you're not going to fire Kaden. You just hired them, so they're coming back for at least one more year.
We don't know anything for sure.
I'll put this. I will put what I have on it that if they made to divisional round and lost, that neither Nick Caley or DeMeco are getting fired.
Oh, I think it might be Nick Caserio.
There you go. But
okay, that's a different conversation there.
So let's go ahead and get on topic. Let's get on topic. We got Jeremy Chugs in the building. What up, Jeremy? How you doing?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I just popped in, got my stuff set up. My dog is fed, so I took care of all my chickens. All my chickens are good.
There you go.
Okay,
we ready to go. We got a little off topic with the EJ Speed conversation, and that's how we got into the linebackers.
I popped in and we're talking about firing Nick Caserio. I come in.
Yeah, we have the Nick haters, so you all something like that.
But hold on. We got Ruben. Ruben said, you owe him a beer.
I do.
He said if he goes from second most sack to 5 most sack, we really happy about that. Hey, and Brandon said I'd rather have a shitty experiment on 1-year contracts than a shitty experiment on 3-year contracts.
Facts.
All in all, but we're here to talk
What's
about.
up, Jeremy?
Yeah, let's talk
doing
about
good.
Jeremy. Jeremy, y'all know him from Texans Today and Chat Sports, daily podcast, doing great work right now. Is going crazy on Texans Twitter. Everybody's sharing your stuff. Everybody's tuning in. I will let you go ahead and introduce yourself. So to the Texans, the H-Town Rundown fans, introduce yourself, Jeremy. Go ahead.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jeremy. My name is Jeremy Chuggs. I run our Texans channel at Chat Sports. We have channels for every single team. So if you are unfortunate enough to be friends with a Cowboys fan, we do also have a Cowboys channel. But no, yeah, I'm born and raised in South Houston, Webster, League City area. Went to school up here in University of North Texas, and then I got a job. First job out of college was with Chat Sports up here in Dallas. So I basically cover the team, do the latest news and rumors around the team. I do a lot of, my insight and what I see around the team as well. But I mean, I love the fact that I'm able to come on podcasts like y'all's, shows like y'all's, because I want Texans Twitter. I want all the Texans content creators. I want us all to come together and work together and be able to bounce ideas off of each other, because at the end of the day, we all have the same goal. We want to watch our team kick ass. We want to have fun doing it, and we want to, be a part of a community. And that's my favorite part about sports, is like watching it with my friends, being part of the community. And that's one of the reasons why this is the field that I decided to get into, just because I've loved sports my entire life, been a part of sports teams, been watching, the Rockets, Texans, Astros since I was a little kid. And it's just my dream to be able to talk about it and be on shows like y'all and talk about it. So I mean, that's my story. So I love the Houston Texans. I'm a big CJ Stroud believer, and I guess I don't think Nick Caserio is going to get fired yet, but I don't know. We shall see after this year. We shall see. We shall see.
Absolutely, it's a work in progress. Not a work in progress, but it's a question in progress. Jeremy, I do have to take points off you from being on the south side. I can't. It's north side all day. We got to ride the north over here.
Hey, all my G-Town homies, if you're watching, if you're a BOI, shout out to Galveston real quick.
I'm sorry. No.
But
I mean, I'm closest south, not all the way south that way.
You see that right there?
We probably have a couple of the BOIs, the Galveston homies watching. So if you are, shout out, type BOI in the comments. Let me know.
Absolutely, y'all. Hey, y'all know why we're here. We're talking about the offensive weapons and specifically the wide receiver position group for the Houston Texans. The second most polarizing topic outside of the offensive line has been the wide receiver room and the weapons that the Texans are going to go into the season with. Currently, we all know Nico Collins, undoubted number one, top. Some say top 5, some say mostly say top 10 receiver in NFL.
Top 10.
And you also brought in a Christian Kirk, guy who I really love, a guy who is close to my heart. Give him thanks and give him. And a guy who's been productive in Arizona and in Jacksonville. Who's coming in? No ish. He's been productive in both places, and he's coming in as your glue guy, as number 2 guy right now. And then you have a whole bunch of questions after that. You have the John Mechie question. You have the Xavier Hutchinson question. What is Justin Watson going to bring? What is Braxton Berrios going to bring to the team? And then you go into the draft. And I would say you have Nick Killer on the team as well. Everybody who's been on H-Town Rundown knows who Nick Killer is.
That man has a family. Call that man by his name. He got legacies after him, okay? Wayne. Call that man by his name.
We're talking about Jared Wayne.
There you go.
Nick Killer.
No, we don't need to mention that name.
And then of course we have the question of Tank Dell, and I think we all are under the assumption that Tank Dell is out for the 2025-2026 season. And he'll be back after this upcoming season. but there's a lot of questions. You know, do the Texans take a wide receiver in this draft?
Absolutely.
I
It's
That's
how
my
early.
I mean, the Texans have surprised us. Do they, Calvin? And I mentioned it earlier on the pod. Calvin there talked about the Texans are not done. Is there another trade in the works? Is there somebody that, you know, is coming in that we're not expecting? Nobody expected the Stephon Diggs trade last year. Nobody expected that, and it had, well, except me, because I called it a year ahead of time. I'm just, you know, I
This
don't
this,
want.
this
Nostradamus
podcast
over
is
here.
this podcast is not. Let's get
Oh.
on ego of AD's ego, okay, and how right you been 9 times out of 8 times, okay.
But definitely,
Mixed fractions over
no,
here.
Tyreek Hill, you know.
yeah,
Hey,
nobody. There could be anything that can happen that can change the draft in the next 3 weeks for the Houston Texans. But from our fan perspective, we all are on the assumption that the Houston Texans are going to draft a wide receiver.
correct.
Do they draft him with pick 25? Do they trade down? Is there a combo like they did with the John Mechie year where they drafted John Mechie in the 2nd round, then drafted Xavier Hutchinson in the 6th round? Are they doing all of these different things that they've done in the past? Are they bringing them back to the future? So there's a lot of questions in that wide receiver room. What are the Texans going to do? I want to hear y'all thoughts on the room. I'll start with Jeremy, hear his thoughts on the room, and we'll go down the line. Jules, Mike Swan, or Jules, Swan, Mike, and then we'll go from there. But I just want to hear everybody's opinion on the room as currently set.
I mean, yeah. So obviously, I think you hit the nail on the head. We know Nico, number one, Christian Kirk. It's still yet to be seen whether his plan is to be wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. But I think you're bringing in a ton of guys with, you know, different skill sets, right? You have Christian Kirk, then you bring in Justin Watson, who, I mean, maybe part of like bringing some good luck back to this team. These last 3 teams he's been on have all been to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
He's also, you know, kind of taking somebody from the enemy. You're getting somebody from the Kansas City Chiefs that has some intel on that squad. So I kind of like that as another sneaky addition in the wide receiver room. But I actually think with how this offense is going, like, I do think we're going to take a wide receiver in the draft. But I actually think this offense wants to get back to running the football more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's going to be a huge emphasis on running the football. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if they take a running back before they take a wide receiver in this year's draft, because this running back class is loaded with talent. There's so many good guys. You're talking about a Travion Henderson in the 2nd round.
Yes.
I'm talking about, you know, RJ Harvey is a sneaky bit. Chris Sims had him as his 3rd best running back in this draft class, which I don't necessarily agree with that. But this class is loaded with running backs. And I talked about it on one of my shows this past week, but one of CJ Stroud's best games, can we all agree one of his best games ever was that Browns playoff game, his rookie season, right?
Mm-hmm.
The stats, and I might be butchering it just a little bit, but I believe in that game on play action, 5 for 7, 146 yards or 148 yards and 3 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. He's great when it comes to play action. And what do you need whenever you're doing play action? You need the threat of the run. And I feel like even though Joe Mixon was great last year, this offensive line put no fear that we were going to be able to run the ball on opposing defenses. Oh, I feel like every run that was good was Joe Mixon making like 5 guys miss and then getting a bunch of like yards after breaking tackles. So I think this Texans team, they brought in Christian Kirk. I don't think they're going to go wide receiver 1st round unless like somebody falls like a Matthew Golden or somebody that they absolutely love. Mm-hmm. But I think they're okay with Nico Collins. They're okay with Christian Kirk and having more of the like 2 tight end sets, like the 12 personnel where it's 1 running back, 2 tight ends. I think they want to get back to that. Another reason where I kind of wasn't on the train of getting a tight end early in this draft, but the more I think about it, the more I analyze it and look at it, maybe they do go tight end and run a lot more where it's just 2 wide receiver sets and try to run the ball, because I think CJ Stroud could be one of the best quarterbacks in this league if he's able to get the play action going this next season. I don't know if that necessarily answers the question in full, AD, but that's just my thoughts on the wide receiver position coming into this offseason and into the draft.
Yeah.
Well, it was answers. We got the answers of it. You know what I'm saying? And you gave us a lot of points, a lot of direction, and you gave a lot to think about other than just weaponry coming to receiver wise. How to add weapons to this offense, and that's what we're seeking, right? So We appreciate it. That was a good take.
I
Yeah,
love
You got some-
Travion Henderson. Travion Henderson is, he's the guy I'm really begging for the Texans to draft. I've had him in damn near every mock that I've done.
Okay. What's up, Mike? What you
I
got
think we
on
all
this?
have.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Travion Henderson. Some are kind of labeling him the Jahmyr Gibbs out of this class.
Mhm.
Running back for me is not a top priority because Joe Mixon, obviously, fantastic leader, fantastic player last year, but it's going to depend on BPA. And if we end up having Travion sitting there at 58 and no other receiver or offensive lineman is really close to where they have him on their draft board, then okay. I think wide receiver, and honestly, like it depends on how you pencil in and project the offensive line, because you don't know, is Titus going to be at tackle or is he going to stay at left guard? Is Blake Fisher, has he kind of solidified that right tackle spot, or is it still an open question? Like, so we're going to find out more, obviously, during the draft. I'm not getting that tight end talk with Beck at all. And Tom McShay, I think, was the first to point out that he has some Puka Nakua comparisons. I kind of see it on tape, honestly. I'm not saying he's a clone of him, but there's some elements to his game there. So I know not everyone here on this roundtable are enamored by him, but I'm definitely, he's on my radar for sure. I mean, at this point, Nico Collins, definitely wide receiver 1, Christian Kirk in 3 receiver sets. Obviously, I think he would be penciled in the slot. So wide receiver is definitely a priority, but I mean, I would think, honestly, we got to address the elephant in the room here, because we offered McMillan a gas mask and he declined.
Oh my God! Here we go.
But he countered, when he was with Coots and Landry, and he's like, "All right, I'll just say I'm not watching film." So we're trying to get that working for him to fall to 25, because that would be a good fit. But Sloan, what you got?
I agree with Jules. I like the different perspective regarding looking at possibly running back first, which I'm a Travion fan. He's damn near in every single draft that I do. But I still think they take a wide receiver either first or second round. So I think it'd be a flip between either O-line or a wide receiver, O-line. I think those two will be the 1 and 2 picks. Would they trade back into the second and they take them in the second round? But I think that's going to be that. And I think at this point, I think most cases I have tight end and running back third or fourth. It all depends on who's there, because the running back draft is very heavy. You got some guys there, speedy guys, receiver type guys. So, I'm hooked 'em, just for the record. Okay. Jeremy. So, Blue is a favorite of mine. Even though Brashard Smith is small, he's another one that I like. Tootin is another one that I like. RJ Harvey is on my list. But when you start looking at the tight ends, and I'm just going to be honest, Dalton Schultz does not give me very much confidence. I mean, he's going to have his opportunity. But in my mind, I'm looking for someone that I can be in line. Because based on what you're mentioning, whatever they decide they want to go 2 wide receiver sets and so forth for 2 tight ends, and you're like, okay, do we really feel comfortable with Schultz out there? Because Stover's still developing. We do have Bremen coming back, but what other tight end do we have that we're comfortable with to do that with? And I do believe that even though you have Mixon, you do need a running back, because we saw what happened when he had the hip drop tackle in the Bears game, and we went the following week to the Vikings, and the following weeks when he missed those next 3 games, yeah, we won them, but it was a struggle. It took the defense to really save us. So I don't want to workhorse Mixon too early. So I want someone that is truly a change of pace back, or if some reason somebody he misses a game 2 or 3, it doesn't drop off. So
Yeah.
But I do have my wide receiver favorites. So, obviously Golden. And then I have Emeka, because the CJ and him connection, obviously, because Christian Kirk is truly only a 1 year. And I mean, we did this last year with Diggs. So I'm not counting on anybody who's 1 year to be here past 1 year. So right now, if you can get that guy now, and if you're just shelving them because of the free agent is performing great, but you're not desperate trying to re-sign somebody next year when we got bigger needs next year and guys to sign. So I hope they go wide receiver early. I would love to get Travion. I've been doing him at number 58 and he's ranked 70. And then, O-line, that's just me.
So, Jeremy, I love your perspective, but no way in hell they're going running back in the first round. Ain't no way.
No, he didn't say that.
Before receiver, right? Before receiver, right? Before receiver.
Well, you can ask AD. I already have the number 1 pick or the first round pick penciled in. I already know who it's going to be.
Okay, I thought you before I say receiver because I want a receiver.
Hold on, Jules. Context clues. He's saying running back before receiver.
I know.
He never said that he was taking wide receiver in the first round.
Right. Even on that note, receiver is a bigger need than running back, and as a running back of Virginia Tech that I'd rather have, I think I'm giving the 4th round or late 3rd round from Virginia Tech. But also, if my thing is receiver first round, that's you're going in trying to get a receiver. Golden, maybe even Higgins if people continue to pro him up, Mecca. But if not, I'm going guard.
I'll go Luther Burton.
Luther Burton. I'm not a real big Luther Burton fan just because AD likes him so much, so I can't really root for him like I really wanted to.
No, I'm looking. Okay, here's my thing. Okay, his thing is
Swan. This is my time, Swan. This ain't your time.
I'm just saying.
How you gonna cut me off? I ain't never cut you off.
I'm sorry, my brother. I'm sorry, my brother.
I'm done. I know me, my purple shirt. We done for the day. No, I'm saying. Nah, go ahead, Swan. I'm just mess with you. Go ahead.
No, I'm gonna say keep him as an option. Because although Nico is the wide receiver number 1, and I love Nico, don't get me wrong, he has not played a full season.
That's why he's not top 5.
No, that's not true. Because we got dudes that miss time that are top 5. But we ain't gonna do that. That's another conversation to have.
That's my.
I ain't gonna derail that.
I can't give him top 5 and play full season. One time in his career, in Nico's career, he got to play at least 1 season. That's my metrics. That's my metrics. That's why I can't put him top 5.
We need to be in a position that we don't have major drop-offs. You're going to have a slight drop-off, but it should be major drop-offs when somebody goes down. And I think that's what separates us from the Ravens, from the Chiefs, Eagles, those types of teams where you can handle losing one of those guys for 2 or 3 weeks. And last year we saw the offense just like it collapsed. Bad scheme, coaching, and all that. But talent, we didn't have enough talent to overcome because talent was hurting at the time. So my thing is,
I think with the improvement of the O-line, you can give CJ more time, and the weapons will look better. So that's why I said I have to go O-line.
Okay, so let me ask you a question right now. Do you have the confidence that if Nico goes down for 2 or 3 weeks, that Xavier Hutchinson can fill in and do his job?
Christian Kirk is
because he's not going to command the same type of attention from a defensive standpoint.
With Kirk being
that's your number 1.
But hey, he's still your target. He's still your number 1 target because he's
more than
right. And I think Kirk
productive because at the end of the day, if Nico Collins gets hurt, you're not going to expect anybody to come in and be an exact carbon copy of Nico Collins. You're not there. There's not going to be. And but again,
we don't know.
So the same thing that happened last year when Nico Collins got hurt, the weight bearing of Nico Collins shifted to a Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. So that is you're not expecting, because when Nico Collins got hurt last year, we didn't have a Nico Collins to replace him, but we did have a Stephon Diggs and we did have a Tank Dell. So the point is that if you have talent in there, if Nico Collins does get hurt, the production is just going to shift. So you're saying it's going to shift over to Christian Kirk, and
Right.
then if you know,
then everybody's got to go up
John
higher.
Mechie, and I said the question you brought up Xavier Hutchinson, Swan. The John Mechie question is another one. Does John Mechie show up?
I
You
hope,
know, is
but I'm saying
this
is,
his time? You know, so
I would rather have someone out there that has.
Well, this is the thing I
Sorry.
have to say. I hear what you're saying, Swan. And my counterpoint to that is anybody that you draft is not necessarily a guarantee either. That they're going to immediately come in.
No,
and
not a
give
guarantee, but talent wise.
But John Mechie is extremely talented. Xavier Hutchinson is extremely talented. These guys are talented.
I haven't seen that.
But they are. You've
Okay,
seen glimpses. You've seen, but you
more than
haven't
being
seen it.
4 and 5 type receivers.
So again, Swan, you've seen glimpses of those guys show their talent in the seasons that they played. You haven't seen it consistently. That is the point of any young player, is being consistent. And if you draft a guy, a Matthew Golden, Luther Burden, Emeka Ibuka, or whoever, and you draft them in the first round and they're not consistent, you're experiencing the same type of frustrations and drop off that you see with the John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson. Because you can say that, you know, Matthew Golden to come in and he'll have a game where he has 60 yards, 70 yards, and we're like, okay, now we see him coming on, and then he disappears for 4 or 5 games, and it's like, what the hell? So those are the things that you have to.
And the dysfunctional, the offensive scheme itself is dysfunctional, and the O-line reception. So
Right.
it's really hard to really judge how good anybody is in the last 2 years with its function of the O-line and the offensive coordinator. All thing you can really tell is that CJ is golden, because with all that toxic O-line and nobody knew what's going on, the play was CJ still shined brightly with a dysfunctional offense.
So, and I agree. I want to tackle this comment, and we'll get back to Jeremy. Black Lion said Kirk is not an X wide receiver. That's the problem. We don't have a guy that can play X and or Z if Nico gets hurt.
Exactly.
So the thing about it, that just goes to show me that people don't watch Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk has played.
No.
Christian Kirk has played the X. Christian Kirk has played the Y and the Z.
That's not what he's very good at. He is better as a slot.
So this is the thing. In his comment, he said, "You don't have a guy that can play it," and that's what I'm addressing his comment.
What he means.
But no, I'm addressing it, and what he's saying is that what I'm saying is that Christian Kirk can do it all. He's a guy that can do it all. So in a pinch, yes, but you drafting a guy, unless you drafting a Ted McMillan, who's a certified X receiver on the outside, like you're not getting
certified.
Who?
I said Matthew is certified.
Matthews.
Yeah.
But
I'm not really big on the wide receiver class as having a true number ones out the gate.
I think that's the thing, is that
that's my perspective though.
I think you do have them in the makings. I think it's just that probably what they've been asked to do. I'll put it this way. Probably what they've been asked to do versus the previous drafts, where you've seen these true X's that are just flat out just dominant, and you can say, yeah, absolutely. But let's keep in mind, BTJ, a lot of folks didn't believe in him. You know, they may or may not be on this panel, you know. But look what happened. Dude turned it. I mean, folks said he was raw in his talent and his route tree and all of that. You know, that was thrown out there last year. And young man came in when Christian Kirk, who for 2 years straight hasn't played a full season either, 7-8 games, 2 years in a row.
Right.
And most attribute that to him playing other than slot. Being asked to play X and so forth put a little bit more pressure
Let me say that I think if Christian Kirk was 2 inches taller, people wouldn't be saying he's a slow receiver. But
So long. We got to guess.
But I want to say this because people talk. Someone brought up BTJ. Are we still saying the same thing about BTJ if Christian Kirk doesn't get hurt? So that's the question, and that's the thing, and that kind of circles back to the point that I was making.
Yeah, I still think he would be hit LSU. I'm sorry, I'm one of those. I'm LSU wide receivers. I'm just something about them.
So Jeremy, with all the conversation that
you got to jump in here. Don't let us
our normal hosts are back and forth that we normally do. What is your take on what we've been saying about the whole situation?
I really want to hear his take about the others,
right?
More than the draft, because we can talk about the draft all day, but I'm intrigued about the others on the the guys Justin Watson, Braxton Berrios, John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson.
Yeah, I mean, so Braxton Berrios, I feel like he has a spot on this roster of a punt return guy because I don't know who else was returning punts for this team. It was Robert Woods, not on the team. Tank Dell, not going to be on the team. Who else is returning punts for this team?
Pierce.
Yes, Pierce is
a kick return.
You had Steven Sims.
He's not on the team.
Yeah, he's gone. So yeah, I mean, I agree with that point.
There's nobody. So I mean, he might just back his way into a roster spot of simply, him against whatever. If they draft a rookie wide receiver, them battling for punt return snaps. Justin Watson, I kind of talked about. He's a sneaky guy where he's kind of under the radar, but he played well and you obviously you have to take into account he's with the best quarterback in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. So he can make me look good. I could be a starting X receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs right now. But Watson's played well there, and he's played in teams with winning environments. I mean, like I said, the past 3 teams that he's been on have been to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs, and then he was on the Bucs before that. So he's a very interesting prospect. I wonder how they're going to look at X and Mechie, because you kind of wonder, Mechie, a former 2nd round pick, when does that kind of, honeymoon period, I guess, kind of end?
Going into the last year of his contract.
After cancer. And
it's like we have to take that into consideration as well, because especially even the year coming out of it, I know everybody's probably had somebody that they're close with, like battle cancer, have it affects you, like even past whenever you're it's in remission or whatever. So you do have to take that into consideration. But I mean, taking that aside, just a strictly football X's and O's, like I don't know if he has a certain spot on this. I mean, last offseason, CJ Stroud said this team has 5 wide receiver ones on this team.
Right.
And when Diggs, Dell, Nico, and all those guys missed times for certain periods, you were looking for Mechie to step up. And I think the only game that at the top of my head where I was like, dang, like Mechie actually cooked was the Lions game. That's the only one I could think of in my head where I was like, he actually showed out and he looked good in that game. Besides that, I can't think of another game where I was like, wow, like Mechie's like putting in some work this game, even with all the injuries that have happened. So with this Texans roster, I do wonder. I said it last year that they were going to have to cut one of X or Mechie, and they ended up cutting Noah Brown, which was a huge surprise, I think, to a lot of people, because Noah Brown, even with all the injuries, he can be a legit wide receiver 3 on a lot of teams. Like he is good.
And they re-signed him before the season started, so that was kind of strange. But do you think, when I know a Brown situation, Robert Woods situation, we always have a veteran. Why do we think that Watson's going to take a spot from anybody? Why he just can't be the veteran who's been here to be a secure blanket for this offense? Why does everybody automatically think that he's going to push 1 or 2 young guys for a roster spot?
I mean, I think the view of this offense is going to be much different going into this year, kind of like I said, like last year, everybody was enamored with the big 3, after we traded for Stephon Diggs, every single graphic was like, Texans have a top 5 receiving core in the NFL. They're going to air it out everywhere. So, I mean, I also think, and maybe they felt like this, maybe they didn't. Maybe the coaching staff felt like, hey, we got 3 solid guys. Why don't we take bets on the young talent underneath it in Mechie and X, and then have Robert Woods as just like somebody, which Robert, you have to say one thing about D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio is they value relationships and they value people who they feel like they can trust. And they trusted Robert Woods. Whenever there was any like tough situation where it was like, man, this is a close game, we really need somebody back there on punt return that we can trust. It was Robert Woods. In big situations where it's like we cannot have a muffed punt, we can't have anything. Robert Woods is somebody that this team trusts and they really liked. So I could like with that, and like you see, even with kind of going to the Caserio stuff with the stuff with relationships, Nick Caley, Cole Popovich both worked with him in New England. So those relationships mean a ton to this team. Now, in regards to Justin Watson, I don't he's a veteran guy who they're bringing in, but I don't know if necessarily that connection with the coaching staff goes deep with him. So maybe it is just okay, let's bring in some extra competition and this offseason rather than last one, really have a true battle of, okay, who are the best 5 wide receivers? Because last year, I don't think they picked the best 5 wide receivers. I don't think X and Metch were better than Noah Brown, but I think they were betting on, we want to let these younger guys develop underneath our top 3 and see what they can do.
Okay.
I agree. So
I also did want to say, if y'all do want to get into some draft stuff, our draft guru at Chat Sports, his name's Tom Downey. Great follow on Twitter if you haven't already, even though he is a Cowboys fan. So that kind of he's somebody I trust more than anything or anybody in the NFL draft. And he actually just sent everybody at Chat Sports his 2025 NFL draft notes. So I have a bunch of stuff on all the wide receivers right here that I've been trying to reading up on, watching some of their highlights and stuff as well. So I know y'all were talking about Luther Burden, so I kind of pulled it up and I was looking at his stuff. And it was funny because one of his first notes was play similar to Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, he is a carbon copy. I think the misnomer on Luther Burden is that I think people don't realize what the season he had before this last season was ridiculous at Missouri. And he came in as undoubtedly the number 1 receiver going into this past season's college football. Yes, Mike, he was.
Travis Hunter exists, right?
Travis Hunter, to me, at the end of the day, he's a tweener.
He's a jack of all trades, a master of none.
Yeah. So, again, I know Travis is going to do that experiment in NFL, but at the end of the day, it's going to be hard. I know he's trying to pull a Dion, but it's going to be hard for you to do both in the NFL. Play 140 snaps a game is ridiculous.
No,
so
I think he's going to be great at one position and then play a little bit at the other.
Yeah, so. And I think he's a better corner than he is a receiver. But going into last season, Luther Burden was regarded as the top wide receiver, and he had poor quarterback play. With I think his name was Cook.
Yeah. And he had 1,200 yards in 2023, 676 yards this year, 9 touchdowns to 6 touchdowns.
So the drop off was great.
Was the attention that he was getting from last year? He couldn't step his game up.
No, because they have some guys on the other side next to him in Missouri that are going to be later round draft picks. That's the question. Really good as well. So.
Another interesting stat that is in his draft notes, he actually forced more missed tackles this year, 30, than he did last year, only 20.
So that is that. Ooh.
Go ahead, Eddie.
No, go ahead.
So my question is, but 2 players that I've heard that could be around at 58 if we pass a receiver on 25 is Higgins and Noah.
Noel.
Can you give me some information about those 2 guys?
Yeah, here, let me pull them up right now. I know
the Cavs just asked about it.
Right,
let's see. Okay, Jaden Higgins right here. Let's see, 2 years at Eastern Kentucky before going to Iowa State. Most of his reps on the outside. If you like big body wide receivers that went over the middle, that's Jaden Higgins, 6'4", but really has like a 6'7" catch radius. His comp for him is Kenny Galladay, if y'all remember that name.
Yeah. Went to
He
New York
also
and
said
died.
he sees a little bit of like the San Francisco 49ers, Jawan Jennings in his game.
Okay.
His grade on him is a early 3rd round grade.
Okay.
He did get some power slot reps, about 29%, which I actually like Nico Collins in that same role of like getting some power slot reps. Like whenever he can get that mismatch, that's really good. Really good hands, only 3 drops over the past 2 years. So only 3 drops in all of his games. Does a good job at creating enough of a throwing window. The bad is cannot force missed tackles. Rarely forces a missed tackle, even though he's a little bit, obviously he's 6'4", huge, pretty good speed, but a lot of that speed is that long stride speed where he has to take a second to get built up, and then in the open field he's going. And that's the other bad was how great is his top end speed. And then also you probably don't expect it as much getting a guy in the 2nd or 3rd round, but didn't play any special teams at all in college. It doesn't really give you any special coming into the NFL, doesn't give you a lot in the special teams unit. And then Jalen Noel, here we go. More of a downfield usage this year. His ADOT, which is average depth of target, went from 7.7 yards in 2023 to 12.2 in 2024. His main comp for him is a Tyler Lockett comp. Speedy wide receiver who can pull away, but won't break a lot of tackles. Noel will have some limitations due to his size. He gives him a 2nd to 3rd round grade. He's gotten better each and every season, mostly slot reps coming out of him. Also, it is funny. One of his other comps for him is Christian Kirk. Let's see. He tested great, obviously, from what we all saw at the combine. 4.39 40, 4.17 shuttle. Really good in his routes and his short area quickness. He didn't offer a ton of yak, just forced 3 missed tackles this year. And hands have been a little bit of an issue, but
that's what I heard about him too.
Growth with it, a little bit of the dropsies. And then it says short arm, small hands, which I guess you can take with that as what you will. I don't really care about short arms as much for a wide receiver. But those are those 2 guys. His notes on them.
I like Higgins a bit better than that.
I have a couple others. I don't know if you've done anything on them. Nick Nash.
Oh, I love Nick Nash.
I know. Man, I love him, and I'd love to have him in the slot. I mean, because that's what he is. I would love to be able to say, "Damn, have him." Dante Thornton, Tennessee, and then I like Ricky White and Kyle Williams, as well as Jalen Royals. So I have those others also, because Nick may wait till the 4th, 5th round, and do that again. And I know those guys will be around there.
All right. Did you say Jalen Royals as one of them?
Or?
Yes, Utah State.
Okay, yeah. So Jalen Royals, I have him right here. 22 years old, mostly on the outside. He's almost a little under 6 foot. Mostly on the outside, but did get 22% slot reps this year. Grade is a 2nd, 3rd round grade. He said he's built like a Deebo Samuel and has some of the yards after the catch ability. But he said that his main comp for him, who he reminds him of, is Golden Tate, the old Seahawks wide receiver.
Hey,
that's a good
one.
He was underrated too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did have 9 kick returns for 184 yards, so does bring you a little bit of special teams help as well. 7.9 yards per yards after the catch this year, which is up 2 yards from 5.9 the year before. So it shows you growth in that instance. Hands are solid, only 3 drops this past year. Really good in contested catch situations. 53.3% in win rate in contested catch situations. Seems to have good quick short area quickness and speed. Dangerous after the catch. His bad is that he's not really a down the field kind of guy. He's his ADOT, which that same like average depth of target, is not very high. So he's catching a lot of slants. He's catching a lot of kept balls behind the line of scrimmage. He did have a foot injury in October that cut his season short. So something that teams might have a little issue with. And then he said one of his main issues is he might have some issues against stronger man coverage corners against like press coverage is one of the biggest
but I expect them to do motion so you can take you can work that.
And we don't know if this offense will be like a vertical threat type offense with Caley. It may be that short passing game that he brings them around. So we may see them target a guy like a Jalen Royals, who is not a super explosive down the field. But at the end of the day, I think people don't. And I'm gonna let you keep going. I just want to make this point about the deep threat. Nico Collins is our deep threat, and I don't think people realize that as well. But go ahead, Jeremy.
We had Kyle Williams. He has him as a 4th round grade, a really good vertical threat, but undersized. He does have him as one of his sleepers though, which I guess now that Chris Sims has him as his like number 3 wide receiver, I don't know how much of a sleeper he is anymore.
I could see him being a day 2 pick.
He's been gaining a lot of traction. Really good after the catch, 8.4 yards after the catch this year with 21 forced missed tackles. Really good. Great in contested catch. Has a lot. He was 10 for 16 in contested catches this year, which is a really good, track record in that. 4.4 speed, and his testing, everything else was pretty above average. His bad, he said he only had 23 special team snaps, so it doesn't give you a ton in special teams. He did feast on downgraded competition a lot during the year, so he's saying like he had 1,200 yards, 70 catches, 14 touchdowns this year. He thinks some of those numbers might be inflated from just feasting on really bad teams. He said his biggest concern is size, and that his route running and his route tree needs a lot of work at the next level.
Right.
I don't see Nick Nash in here, but I do love Nick Nash. He was a quarterback whenever he first got into college, and then has gotten better each and every single year past that.
Yeah,
and he's a bigger body receiver.
Yeah, and that's a big slot.
I like him. So somebody that I also do like in the 2nd or 3rd round of like, if you want a true X receiver, and I feel like he's like been like sliding just a little bit. I do like Trey Harris out of Ole Miss.
I knew you were gonna say Trey Harris.
Yeah,
I do like Trey Harris out of
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. His pro comp is actually really fun with this. He said gives me shades of Cortland Sutton and you might remember this name, Kenny Britt.
Yeah.
Oh, Titans Kenny Britt, huh?
Yeah. Has a 2nd/3rd grade on him. Big play machine. I actually whenever I watch his tape, he gives me a little vibes of AJ Brown also. He's a big receiver, and his biggest plus is that he's a big yards after the catch guy. For being a guy who's 6'3", 210 pounds, he's a true X receiver, but can also really help you with like catching the ball after a slant and taking it to the house. His route tree, he said, needs a lot of work because he's more of a go slant hitch post kind of guy where he doesn't have a lot of variations where, kind of like you see Tank Dell, he's like one-on-one with a guy and he's like giving him a lot of head fakes and stuff. He said it's very simple, like slant, go ball, or post. And the short area quickness is a little bit of a concern as well. And he has medical issues, groin in 2024, knee in 2023.
Sound like a Texan to me.
Before we go to
hamstring issues, man. Hamstring issues.
Hey, before we go to the next one.
Man, come on now. You know we do that.
I know. Before we go to the next one on the list, I just want to point everybody down at the bottom. Y'all go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Y'all see the good content every week after week, especially with Jeremy. Y'all go ahead and follow him as well. What's your at, Jeremy?
At Jeremy Chugs.
Okay, at Jeremy Chugs.
No underscore or anything like that?
Right? No underscore. It's at Jeremy Chugs.
I think I'm the OG. Hold on. Let me see.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
At Jeremy Chugs. Y'all go ahead. Like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Also, go over and follow him and subscribe to his podcast as well with Chat Sports. So, y'all, please go ahead and do the favor and do the thing. Hit the notification bell as well.
And I would like to add on to that before
Jamal, I love your idea because I like Thornton Jr., but Johnny Wilson is ass.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I want to say that is more of a byproduct of Ole Miss offense. the lack of like route diversity, because that was the thing with AJ Brown. That was the thing with DK Metcalf. That
Right.
kind of pushed both of them down.
Yeah.
So, that's more of a byproduct of them than him. So we'll see. But
So Jeremy, who is your number one receiver? Not talent wise, or just who's your favorite guy that you like a receiver, no matter what draft spot? Who's your number one guy?
Oh, like just like if the Texans could take the top receiver in the draft.
Right. Who's your one that?
It's Ted McMillan.
Okay.
It's T-Mac. I mean, and I do, which it does suck because I saw Mr. Optimistic post that clip from Stutz and Landry, which you don't really, that does suck sometimes, where you don't get to see the full conversation. You don't get to see the full lead up to that clip or the post of that clip of them talking about it. But a lot of people took that as that happened like this week, where I believe that clip was from like 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
When you look at how he played and like the nuances in his game, obviously he's learned at Arizona. Obviously he's gotten better each year. And I don't think he shares that same. I mean, I can't think of how many things I said at 18, 19 years old where I would look back and be like, damn, I sounded like a real dumbass. Like, like he probably saw that clip and was like, dang, I wish I didn't say that. Right. But I mean, you look at a guy at his size and his ability, and just like somebody who is 6'3", 6'4", and is able to move like he does. And it kind of gives me, I'm not saying he plays like him, but D-Hop was somebody who was so big, but also so nimble at the same time, where it's like he was able to get those acrobatic catches, able to contort his body in ways where you're like, dang, I feel like somebody who's like 6'2", 6'3" should not be able to move like that. And T-Mac gives me that. Like, he gives me like he's going to be a really, really good wide receiver in this league. And maybe other guys have a higher ceiling than him, but I think he definitely has the highest floor in this draft class.
Do you think his hype is kind of died down a little bit because other positions are more needed, and like the ends are running faster? Because coming into the draft, his name was so hot, but as the draft seasons come down, his name is starting to drop a little further here from there. Do you think it's just is his game, or is just the season of where we at that receiver is not as important this draft as it has been previous years?
So I will say this is going to be my fourth draft at Chat Sports, covering the NFL draft. And something that happens every single year is that more O linemen and D linemen go in the first round than people expect. And I think that has to do a lot with it's not a sexy name, right? Like if people are putting out a mock draft, if Mel Kiper puts out a mock draft and over half the guys are offensive and defensive linemen, it's not going to get as many clicks. People aren't going to be as interested, and people love going, they want a wide receiver. They want a running back early. They want those cool positions. But I feel, and like, this is what I've been saying about, I told AD, I messaged him, everybody's getting on the hype train of Donovan Jackson in round 1. And I planted my flag a month ago saying, if I had to put money on it right now, Donovan Jackson's the pick in round 1. Okay. And it's because offensive linemen, defensive linemen always go early, because there's a shortage in this league of really good offensive linemen. And I think he could get pushed down a little bit, because you see a Armin Membu, you see a Will Campbell, they're really good. And even some of these other offensive line. And that's why, I mean, even though I've taken them in a couple mock drafts, I really don't believe Kelvin Banks makes it to 25. Like you're saying,
I don't think so either.
And I know y'all were talking about, earlier, like Texas players, Jaden Blue. I mean, he was a 3-year starter on one of the best offensive lines in college football at left tackle, had played great, played through injury. I mean, didn't even really have any injury concerns. You're telling me that dude makes it all the way to pick 25? Like, I just don't believe it.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that also the combine, not the combine, but the pro day for Josh Simmons bumps him up as well in the draft. I think that he goes higher than expected. I know a lot of people were marking him for us at 25, but I think that a guy like Donovan Jackson, like you're saying, at 25, he was a guy earmarked for the second round. a guy that was going in the upper echelon of the second round. Now he's bumping into the first round because of his play and because of people are, like you just said, are emphasizing offensive line, defensive line. And I said this the last couple of years on this podcast, offensive line play around the league has been deteriorating consistently. And it's very rare outside of like Detroit and Philly that you have offensive line groups that are dominant the way that they're dominant. Even Baltimore has taken a step back, and they've been dominant for years on offensive line. And you've seen them this past year take a step back. So offensive line play in totality has been deteriorating year after year, which is why it goes to your point of how teams are emphasizing we got to get offensive linemen, we got to get defensive linemen, we got to be able to rotate these guys in and out. We got to have certified, starters on offensive line. So I agree with everything you're saying about that there's, once again, to your point, Shamar Stewart was going into the pre-draft process. Nobody was even thinking about him. They were saying maybe third round pick. Now people are penciling him in as an edge guy, as a certified top 15 pick or top 20 pick going into this draft. So it just goes to your point again about defensive line, offensive line, how those are a priority. The trenches are a priority in the NFL. And I do want to touch on something that in the comments, Black Lion has been talking about these two guys. If you can talk about them before we head out, LeJohntay Wester and Jimmy Horn from Colorado.
Both those guys. Okay, let me see what I have on those. I know Jimmy Horn Jr. Oh yeah,
undrafted free agents.
No, man.
Definitely.
That's what we're gonna say about them cats. Okay, undrafted free agents.
So they sell around 7 rounders.
Right. We're not gonna, I'm not gonna waste my guest time on some undrafted free agents.
Jimmy Horn Jr. got a chance to me in the 6th.
By name only.
Yeah. But I mean, how many folks have not kind of got a guy that's supposed to be getting drafted 2 or 3?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at just production, which he hasn't filled out his notes for everybody just yet, he goes from the top guys down. That's why I don't think he's worked his way to Nick Nash either. But I mean, just looking at the production that he has in here for LeJohntay Wester, just on production alone, I mean, last year at Florida Atlantic, 1,100 yards. This year, 930 yards. I think he might have a better chance to like sneak in at the 6th, 7th round right there, maybe. But I mean, we're talking about like late round picks, which actually my favorite late round pick is for wide receiver was Ricky White. From UNLV. Only because he has the craziest stat out of almost every wide receiver this past year, 4 kicks blocked. He blocked 4 kicks, which is more than like 75% of college football teams did all year. He's a special teams ace. And if you're drafting somebody in round 6 or 7, you need them to play special teams. And Frank Ross is maybe the best special teams coordinator in the NFL.
He's the fastest. He's the fastest in the league. I got one more question for you before we go. Go ahead, D. That's it. So give me your top 5 receivers in this draft in order.
Top 5 receivers in this draft in order. Okay. Yeah. So T-Mac at number 1.
It's not as easy, is it?
Yeah, this is tough, man. Because after him, I mean,
I think varies.
Because Matthew Golden and Emeka Egbuka are right there at like 2 and 3, right? Like I like both of them. I do still have Luther Burden at number 4. I know a lot of, and I think this is a lot of stuff that we do in pre-draft and going in. Like you remember DK Metcalf, he started off as a 1st-round pick, and then as we got closer and closer, they're like a lot more teams kind of like pushed him down their draft board. And I think you overthink it sometimes, right? Like you're like, oh well, he had great production. But, like there's like this small little, stat over here that shows like, oh, he might not be as good as we think. I do still think Luther Burden is a really good player. And whenever you put on the tape and you watch the catches that he's able to make and, the routes that he runs and the separation that he's able to gain. And I think that's another big thing in looking at the wide receiver class in this year for the Texans is DeMeco came out and said one thing that he wants is separation, guys who can separate.
So we got 1 and we got 4.
So okay, T-Mac at 1.
Okay.
I'm going Golden at 2.
Okay.
This actually might ruffle some feathers. I think I go Luther Burden at 3 and then Ibuka at 4.
Okay. And that 5th one.
And then that 5th one, I think I'm going Jalen Noel. I think Jalen Noel is number 5 for me. I really like Jalen Noel. I think I was actually on I really hadn't done much on him, and I actually went on the Texans 22 podcast.
Boo.
And they were hyping him up a ton. And I was like, dude, I got to look more into him. And whenever I watch this tape, dude, he is a monster on the field. He is great. So that would be my 5th, Jalen. Well, but I mean, past that, I mean, you have a slew of second-round guys. Like we haven't even talked about Alec Manor from Stanford, really big X-type guy. I think he's a 2nd or 3rd round wide receiver. We talked about Trey Harris. I mean, there's a lot of second. Tez Johnson is another Oregon guy, which he gets a lot of Tank Dell comparisons, but I don't.
He's too small.
Tez lost me with the 150,
132, 118 pounds.
Yeah, like
because he had weights in his shoes.
Yeah. And then we talked about Kyle Williams. I think he's a 2nd or 3rd round wide receiver. The one guy who I made a video on him like 3 weeks ago, and that he's the biggest boomer bust wide receiver in the draft is Savion Williams from TCU. That
was one of my that was one of my biggest guys for a long time. And because I like the fact that he was an ex-running back, and there's so many guys that throwing wide receiver screens. You want somebody who knows how to bob and weave into clusters of blockers in front of you, and he was my guy for a long time. But I've kind of just let off a little bit because his route tree is not that profound. He's a big guy. He didn't run as fast as I thought he was gonna run, but I've kind of laid low on him lately to see where we go with this offense and have we draft pick. But he was one of my guys. I've said from the beginning I liked right before the draft process started.
Yeah, and it's like the way TCU used him, like he is like a true like we throw on like, oh, this is a gadget guy, this is a gadget guy. He's a true gadget guy. Like he is a Deebo Samuel. I could see a team that drafts him, use him as a like in a running back role at some point. Like you said, like I could see them have TCU had specific packages of plays to just get him the ball and try to get him in space. His best attributes are 22 forced missed tackles this year and 88.9% on contested catches. When the ball's in the air, he can go up and get it. And I think you hit the nail on the head. His only downside is he's not a true trained receiver. He's a athlete that plays wide receiver.
Correct. So I've dropped him down to maybe the late 4th or 5th round kind of area.
That's exactly where he has him. He has him as a 4th round pick.
Right.
Yeah. Look, all good stuff, man. Look, we can go on for days and days, but I know I want to give Jeremy some time. Just got off of work. We got to give him some time back. But appreciate you, Jeremy, for joining us today and blessing us for coming in. And it was great talk, great breakdown of all these draftable wide receivers and the ones we have on the roster. But again, I'll go ahead and put this banner down. Y'all go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. I added Jeremy on there. Y'all go ahead and see his @ right there. Go ahead and follow him. And y'all go and subscribe to the podcast as well. And be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss an episode that he puts out daily. So please don't miss it. And it's for I don't want to sound
Jeremy,
bad.
Is your YouTube channel and everything in your bio?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's Chat Sports on there, so we should be good in that. But if you just search Texans Today on Chat Sports, I believe my link in there is just to all the Chat Sports channels.
So so just the reference for people, even if you just type in on YouTube Texans Today, his channel is the first one that pops up.
Okay.
So you definitely don't want to miss any of his content that he's putting out.
And just throwing this into the void, because Ruben said I owed him a beer at the very beginning of the show. I am trying to come down to Houston. Dirty little secret, I'm a producer at Chat Sports as well, so I produce for a ton of different shows around Chat Sports, and I'm the main producer for our largest channel, which is our Raiders channel. Raiders are playing the Texans in Houston. So I was planning on coming down, doing a get together, doing like a Houston content creator, like pre-game get together, something. So I want to see all y'all there. Yep. I want to see everybody hanging out. And obviously, once we get the details of the schedule, I want to plan something. I want to have everybody come out. I want to meet with everybody, rub elbows with everybody, drink a beer, and everybody just hang out. And I mean, I want to be able to meet y'all in person, because I love coming on y'all shows. I love listening to all the different Texans content creators out here. There, y'all are doing a fantastic job. So I just want to be able to continue to grow this community, because I hate how much the Texans kind of get, and it's better in the coming years because we've been good. But like as a fan base, we kind of get pushed down to the side because we are like the newest team in the NFL. But we're on the come up. We have a lot of fans. We're one of the biggest cities in the nation, and I think as we band together, we get better. We can really kind of push this thing forward and have like a huge fan base.
Okay. Man, absolutely. Ruben is the guy. Ruben is the guy for that, because we did have a couple great events last year.
He a chaperone though, but Ruben is a guy.
No, definitely. I think we had a good show. I think John Hickman from Locked On Texans, Houston Stressins, Ruben, Harley, myself, and a few guys from Texans on 3 podcast as well. It was quite a few different Texan content creators that showed up, and we did a full live stream for the Texan versus Chiefs game in December last year, and as well as the playoff game against the Chiefs as well. I did tell Ruben we can't and Stressins we can't do it again if we're playing the Chiefs. But definitely we should have one of those type events when you come down, so that we can all fellowship and enjoy each other and enjoy the Texans, man. So, and talk about it. But definitely y'all go ahead and follow Jeremy. And I want to thank Jeremy again for joining us tonight. I want to thank my co-hosts Jules, Mike G, Auntie Swan. Y'all be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And of course, follow us all on Twitter, X, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of that good stuff. And we'll see y'all on the next episode, man. We talk more about the Houston Texans. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see y'all, man. Peace.
Good night.